All right, folks. 14 states, led by New Mexico, sued the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, on Thursday, challenging the alleged unlawful delegation of executive power to Elon Musk. They say has unraveled federal agencies and caused widespread disruption as criticism of Elon Musk's increasingly powerful agency builds. So that's something we're seeing in the news. Attorney generals from New Mexico, Arizona, Michigan, and 11 other states sued Musk, Doge, and President Donald Trump, alleging Musk's virtually unchecked authority is unconstitutional, and the sweeping authority now vested in a single unelected and unconfirmed individual is anti-ethical, anti antithetical to the nation's entire constitutional structure. So that's something that they're saying as well. Doge tweeted out that its official site was live, though the site only had a feed of what the agency had been tweeting on X, a page for people applying to work with Doge. A chart explaining the breakdown of government employees, and a saving page that read, "Receipts coming soon, no later than Valentine's Day." In the post announcing the website, which went live almost 24 hours after Musk told ABC News all of Doge's actions were being posted to the website to increase transparency, the department said it will constantly be working to maximize the site's utility and transparency. And then also, Trump issued an executive order back on February 11th, directing government agencies to consult with Doge on hiring approvals, hiring ratios, and hiring plans aimed at slashing the federal workforce and eliminating waste, bloat, and insolvency. So the order calls for massive cuts in the federal workforce, including the directive that each agency hire no more than one employee for every 4 employees that depart, with certain exceptions like the military and law enforcement. So there's a lot going on in this Doge space and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that was being reported out of Forbes and all along those lines. So definitely that is one of the news stories that we're hearing. We'll see if others come on, if they've got thoughts about a number of these things as well. Trump orders up a plan for more tariffs even as inflation heats up. That is something that's coming out of the news as well. So Trump has announced reciprocal tariffs, and RFK Jr. has been sworn in as the health secretary. So Trump widens a trade war with the biggest tariff salvo so far. So Trump signs a sweeping reciprocal tariff plan and says more is coming. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. And the Manhattan U.S. attorney resigns after refusing orders to drop the case against the New York City mayor. So the top New York prosecutor, who quit after refusing to drop Adams' case, told A.G. Bondi she's confident he's committed the crimes. So that's something else that is going on in the news as well. And of course, people are talking about this conversation between Putin and President Trump and what could go in that conference or that conversation as things are possibly going to end the war and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, there is reports that Kyiv and the EU are alarmed by the prospect of a dirty deal after the Trump-Putin call. So EU foreign policy chief on Ukraine-Russia talks, any quick fix is a dirty deal. And Zelensky responds to Trump and Putin's call on the Ukraine war. So a push for Ukraine's capitulation. Baltic and Eastern Europe react to Trump's rush to negotiate peace with Putin. So this is something else that we're seeing as well, where people are wondering about this particular situation. And Hamas says it will free more Israeli hostages on Saturday as originally planned. Hamas says it will release hostages as planned, potentially resolving that ceasefire spat with Israel. So Hamas a few hours ago says it's willing to move ahead with its Gaza ceasefire. And UNICEF says an armed man raped scores of children in Eastern Congo rampage. So UNICEF accused armed man in Eastern Congo of raping scores of children. And that's something else that we're seeing in terms of political news. So children in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo increasingly exposed to sexual violence, abduction, and recruitment. That's something else that folks are talking about in the news as well. So like I said, a lot of things are taking place in the news and all along those lines. I'm actually going to bring in my good friend Sasha Starr and see what he's got to say about these conversations, because apparently there have been conversations going on, and I know he'll be talking about it tomorrow as well with Mr. Putin and with President Trump and all along those lines. So I have been hearing, as I've been reading online, that there is this talk that there might be some peace negotiations, and there might even be the end of the war before we get to the 3-year anniversary, or maybe a little bit after it, and everything like that. But I was just wondering your take on this, because apparently Trump and Putin are actually in phone calls, and I even heard that they might have a physical meeting in Saudi Arabia and all along those lines. So does this mean that this war is about to end, in your opinion? And if so, what is it Trump getting out of this and all along those lines? So what is your take on this whole notion of these talks that I guess some people are very excited about and some people are concerned about? But I was wondering your take on this and all along those lines.
Trump is going to succeed in his second term and do exactly what he wanted but couldn't do in his first term. He wants to completely change U.S. foreign policy that was in place since the end of Second World War. What he's talking now to Putin is the same thing that, for example, Eisenhower would talk to Hitler about ending the war and make peace agreement and accommodations and so on. It's exactly the same thing. It's complete betrayal of Ukraine. His uh, talks to Putin in secrecy, and then put Zelensky just okay, Vladimir Zelensky, I talked to Putin. This is what we decided to do, or something like that. It's not where a person is really trying to negotiate something. It's complete betrayal of Ukraine, its people, and its interests. And by the way, not only Ukraine, but NATO and European community as well. They're all pissed off extremely at Trump's behavior. I don't even want to spend time to discuss the appointment of Tulsi Gabbard, which is openly told on Russian television media. And our Tulsi, she's became now the czar of FBI and all the U.S. intelligence community. This is absolutely incredible. On the other hand, there is nothing could be done about that. The only thing is that U.S. will join Russia and other BRICS countries, will be expelled out of NATO. That's probably what's going to happen most likely. But look, there is nothing can be done about that. That's for sure.
Well, speaking of nothing that can be done, we got Toby with us now. We'll see if Kim or Nick join us, or Rick Rosner or some of the others. But there is also talk, I guess it is now official, that RFK is going to be the head of the Health and Human Services. So what is our take on this? Because it looks like he was appointed and is another one of these Trump allies that has got their job and all along those lines. So what is your take on this notion of RFK now running Health and Human Services?
Trash. I mean, what do you want me to say? The dude is an anti-vaxxer who doesn't have any degree in law, any degree in medicine, has no medical background. He's the lead anti-vaxxer, and we have tuberculosis breaking across, was it Kansas or Kentucky?
And some in North Carolina as well.
Yep. We also have a breakout in Texas. We also have a breakout in Florida. All these different viruses. We also have the bird flu transferring over to mutating over and attacking cows. So, yeah, hate to say it this way, but a lot of people are about to die. And that's a sad part. That's a sad reality that we're going to have to deal with, because we put Trump in office and now, Elon in office. And now we have to deal with this idiocy.
Yeah, definitely looks like Elon's in charge and everything like that. I did see that India and France are in conversation, and apparently they have announced that they have plans to develop a small modular nuclear reactor. So is this a good thing, or will it lead to them being nuclear powers up there with China, Russia, and the U.S. and all along those lines? So, what is our take on this? I know that I think Macron has already met with, I think, Trump, if I remember correctly, and I think that Modi is supposed to have that meeting coming up shortly and everything. So, what is our take on this notion of these folks developing nuclear reactors, even though they will be small reactors?
Well, it's the evolution of technology. What we keep thinking about is bombs. We keep having these old wars. The new technology right now is AI. What does AI need? Power and water. And if right now China is they are in the midst of creating, I think there was a satellite imagery of it, a giant X, which is a nuclear fusion reactor that looks like a giant X, but it's shining lasers across to create that fusion. But again, that is your next barrier. If they're able to create it and create a sustaining amount of energy or sustainable amount of energy off of it, it's limitless with fusion. I mean, there's just a lot of great things with fusion. Fission is what we currently have, and that modular thing that you're talking about, yeah, it's makes it easier. It's, you can place it more and get more energy and supply. But again, AI is new technology, and if you're not going to keep up with AI and create your own batteries and the energy resources, you're going to be a country way behind, which we are about to be.
Speaking of being a country way behind, there was an article, I think it was in Statista and everything like that, that particular publication. And I think Sasha has alluded to it before. I know that definitely David Walker has written books about it and everything along those lines as to whether America is still a world power and everything. So they just recently had or still having this week and everything, the 61st Munich Security Conference and all along those lines. But one of the questions I guess that people are asking at this conference is the notion of global security and also the international order and all along those lines. So apparently there is this notion, partially because of BRICS and partially because of other things, that the old world order is not the same world order, and that maybe the U.S. doesn't have the power that it used to have, and the superpowers in general, Russia included, or what was the Soviet Union, don't have the same power that they used to have. So I guess the question that I've got for you, Sasha, is do superpowers still rule the world, and should they rule the world? Because that was the question that was asked in this particular article, even though they're saying China is the main supporter of a world order based on multiplurality and everything. So what's your take on whether we need to be a major player as or not? Because in the past it would have been Japan, India, and the United States, and some people still think of the U.S. as the dominant superpower. But what's your take?
First of all, if there is some kind of order, that order has to be enforced. Mm-hmm. And if there is no one to enforce the whatever order there is to it, to enforce, it means that order is null and void, and there is no any order whatsoever. If there is not any order, as it is basically now, whoever has the power is allowed to go ahead and grab the land and take the people, take the resources to do it. That's what basically the United States did it. So when Soviet Union fell apart in the early 90s, so U.S. became the only power, and it spent its power on absolutely mindlessly fighting the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and who knows where else. They spent trillions of dollars. They killed and lost a lot of their own people. And the last thing what they wanted to do is to enforce whatever order there was after fall of the Soviet Union, where it was basically a unipolar world, where the United States was the top and the only power, and they just completely let it evaporate. There is no longer all this nonsense about U.S. superpower in 2040. It's complete nonsense. It's not superpower even today. There is a great, especially after elections that Trump won. Right now, United States is a beggar. It's a world beggar who is in $36 trillion in debts, and it's playing a poker game, telling the countries we want to take over this, we want to move there, and so on. And in the meantime, where is the money? Who and how is going to pay for this and for that? He's saying, okay, U.S. will take over Gaza. At the same time, U.S. is not going to spend any money on Gaza. It's not going to move his troops to Gaza. So somebody else will get out the local people, the Palestinians. Somebody else, maybe Jordan, maybe Egypt, maybe somebody else, will house them and build for them very nice accommodations until the new world-class resort will be built in the place of Gaza. Same thing in Ukraine. Okay, there will be a peace in Ukraine, but who is going to provide security on the border, a new border that will be negotiated between Ukraine and Russia? It's not going to be U.S. It has to be, how they call it, capable European countries, but not U.S. So U.S. is not going to pay for it. U.S. is not going to provide troops, but U.S. wants the rare metals resources out of Ukraine. For what? Shut your mouth, for crying out loud. Enough is enough.
We're speaking of enough being enough and everything. I know we've talked about it before, and even when others, including Shaquille, have been on, there's been this notion of around the world a far right push and everything. Some people would say that that's what MAGA is, and all along those lines. And definitely we see that now in Germany, where apparently the far right party is heading for its strongest result yet in the German election. So are we just seeing a move to the right globally? And this is for either you or Jacoby. So we just seeing a move to the right of politics. You know, they say the pendulum swings one direction or the other constantly and everything. So we just seeing a pendulum swing toward the right in world politics.
So yes, there's a pendulum swing. There's always a pendulum swing. And again, 33 elections held, 27, the incumbent party lost regardless of whatever party it was. So if you base it on that and then say the majority of those incumbents were not that right-wing arena, in terms of that's the ones that came in, well, that the incumbents were not the right wing. So you have that swing already happening back and forth. So regardless, there's always going to be a swing. However, when Donald Trump won and people are outside of the country are seeing what he's doing, he's actually slowed that right-wing movement on a lot of other countries. For example, Canada. Sasha, isn't there a more positive view? Because everybody hates Trudeau, but now that Trump is there, the stuff that he said, from what I have heard, is that it's still negative against Trudeau, but it's not as negative as it has been because there's that slow.
Yeah. Well, situation is Trudeau probably is not the best example because Trudeau resigned as a leader of Liberals. So there will be a new election. I think it was March 9th. There will be election of a new leader for the Liberals, and that will be followed by nationwide elections, federal elections. Okay, so the overall, the feeling is there is almost hatred to America. I'm sorry to say, but that's what I see on the streets. That's what I saw today in the supermarket. I went to buy some stuff, and people are selecting. Oh, what is the origin of this? Oh, this oranges? Oh, California? No, we don't need that. Do you have anything from Colombia, from Israel maybe, or some other sources? We don't need whatever U.S. produce. We really don't need it. We can live without it. And same thing will be about cars. I don't think that there will be a lot of Tesla sold in Canada, although Tesla is a pretty good car. I had a ride in Tesla. It's quite pleasant, I must say. And I never thought about buying Tesla myself, but it's quite pleasant ride, and it's very sophisticated, and the panel is really great. But even on my program, the Modern Investment, I have both Jim Ead and Milan Somberg. They both have Teslas. And both said they will never buy Tesla again, although they they like these cars. So this is, and I think it will happen in other countries, maybe Denmark, maybe some other European countries. I don't think that Trump understands what he is doing. He's not doing that for benefits of U.S. people. Maybe he has some benefits for himself, which I'm very curious. What's in it for Trump? Okay, so in his campaign to get elected, he was talking about that he'll make peace in Ukraine in one day. Okay, so now he won election. Okay, he is president now for next 4, maybe 8, maybe 12 years or forever. So now, why Ukraine is such a big deal for him? It's not. Putin is a big deal for him. He wants to get friendly with Putin. He wants to come to Moscow probably on May 9th to celebrate 80 years since the end of Second World War. So there will be Emperor Xi, Putin, and Trump. And these three stooges will talk about how to divide the world. It's basically like Yalta 1945, when three leaders, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin, they agreed how to divide the world. So that next now continuation of that will be Moscow 2025, when the three leaders will agree how to divide the world.
Well, speaking of dividing the world, one of the things that we've talked about on this show, I think that some of our founders, or at least one of them, has thought that it was a great idea, this idea of taking over the Panama Canal, but also taking over Greenland. And apparently U.S. Senator Bernie Moreno has called Trump's Greenland acquisition talks worthy conversations. So what is our thoughts around this? Because apparently the majority of Greenland's population wants independence, and some people are saying that there was an article in Real Clear Defense that Trump's Greenland gambit is a masterclass in statecraft. I don't know that I agree with that, but that's what they're claiming and everything. So is Greenland and maybe even your country of Canada about to be acquired by the U.S.? And if so, what is my fellow panelists' thoughts on that?
Well, the main leverage is there are only 55,000 people in Greenland. So it's relatively cheap to bribe 55,000 people one way or the other. I don't know what Greenland gets from Denmark. I assume they get a pretty good, welfare kind of package where maybe, I don't know. I mean, but that's, if you want to buy 50,000 people, it's.
I don't think Greenland will work, because another issue that you're running into is their history. Evidently, they have they have a very bad history of colonization. Mm-hmm. And now if you want to be the grand colonizer and colonize Greenland, you're already on bad footing. So I don't think even, tossing whatever money out there. But then how do you get that money in the first place? Sasha brought that up earlier. How you going to pay for it? If you claim we're broke, how you going to pay for it?
Speaking of things that we're broke and everything like that, and this is for Sasha and everything along those lines. I mentioned Saudi Arabia, but there's another player. It's one of Nick's favorite players. I think he put stuff into their Facebook pages and everything. But apparently China is ready to play the role of peacemaker in Ukraine. So they're proposing to host the Trump-Putin talks without Ukraine's Zelensky. And this was reported on the Wall Street Journal yesterday and everything. So apparently China is pleased by the Trump-Putin call after reportedly proposing a summit. So is China going to be where these conversations are going to be taking place? And if so, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that, as I said before, Trump, at the end of the day, he will join BRICS. He will get out of NATO. He will get out of all the Western organizations, and he will become, together with China, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, India, and so on. If you can't beat them, join them. Trump
stands. You're being nice. Being nice, Sasha. I'm gonna say it because you're trying to be nice right now. I need the old Sasha back. He's gonna do whatever Putin tells him to do. You can be honest.
Well, we experienced that 4 or 5 years ago in his first cadence, so we know how it works. And now Trump is way more dangerous to United States primarily, and the rest of the world, simply because he's now well prepared. He's hired all the right wing hawks, all these people, and all this Huxed and what's her name, Tulsi
Gabbard.
Gabbard, and all these people, they're horrible. They're all smelly people, but that's all he hired. And now they're going to do anything what he tells them to do. Even Haggerty, what's interesting is that he had a speech yesterday in the, what, I don't call it a speech because he just read a piece of paper that was prepared to him. So he was reading. There is no question that Ukraine cannot join NATO. Okay. Next day, he apologized. No, you didn't correctly understand what I said. That everything is on the table. It could be that under certain circumstances, maybe Ukraine will join NATO. So probably somebody told him, you know who, hey, listen, you idiot. What did you say? Correct yourself. Okay, idiot.
I want to go back to Greenland for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
So Greenland is 5 times the size of California. And as temperatures warm, it'll still be cold as hell, but it may have a ton of heavy metals for use, and also might be a place to build server farms and nuclear reactors because AI is going to eat a ton of energy.
Oh yeah, it'd be a great spot for it, but the problem is now you're going to tell 50,000 people the only thing we're going to do is make you a nuclear waste dump.
Yeah, but I bet you less than 1% of Greenland's land area is occupied because it's 81% glacier. So
we can do the same thing in Alaska.
Yeah, but I mean, so you tell people we're going to make you rich by messing up the part of your island that you don't even visit.
But
people in Alaska get like $2,000 or more a year just from the oil industry, just for living in Alaska.
Look at what was it, Pennsylvania, where the fracking companies came through. Where now we're going to come through and poison your water, but hey, guess what? You're going to be rich. You can't. I mean, you may die in a few years, like 5 years. Because of all the chemicals and everything else. But you know what? You're going to die rich. So I don't know if that sell is going to be a big thing because, again, it goes back to the colonization and that history. They can do trades. They can do whatever the other stuff. Greenland, I don't think, wants to be a part of the country because of a lot, the American culture and giving up all the other stuff. But also, again, how do you tell an independent country, you know what, we're gonna come take you over because it's the great colonizer.
Colonization and everything like that. Hey, just really quickly, because I've been trying to figure this out for the last couple of days. I'm gonna have fun with y'all now and everything. But who's in charge of the country? Is it Donald Trump? Is it Elon Musk? Or is it Elon Musk's 4-year-old son? Because it does look like he was trying to control both of those men and everything like that. So who is really in control of the United States? Because the guy with the young kid with the unusual name, maybe he's the one that's really running everything.
All right, I think the most important part of this is, he's got a wild 4-year-old son. And people are saying he's such a great family man. He has 11 other children. And the older kids, most of them don't talk to him.
Yep. And this one, though, I thought was hilarious. The right wing went extremely crazy over a tan suit that President Obama wore. They flipped their lid when they thought President Obama put his feet on the Resolute desk. Well, this 4-year-old kid told Trump, "You're not the president," and to shut up. Or I think he said, "Shut the F up," or whatever. And then on top of that, picked his nose and wiped it all on the Resolute desk. And the right wing is happy.
The right wing is having fun with this, and they're not arguing. Speaking of the right wing and speaking of Musk, and I mentioned at the beginning before y'all got here, including Sasha and everything, apparently today, 11 states, including Arizona, Michigan, and several others are suing Doge, Musk, and President Trump alleging that his virtually unchecked authority is unconstitutional, and the sweeping authority now vested in a single unelected and unconfirmed individual is antithetical to the nation's entire constitutional structure. So I know sometimes when Nick's here, he's our resident lawyer, and in addition to being one of the founders, he talks about the constitutionality, and I think the lawyers then will be talking about that on next Tuesday, if I remember the date correctly and everything like that. But what is y'all's take on this notion of these states going after Doge and its power, and
So-
should it have that power?
You have the constitutional crisis when the courts rule against Trump and Trump just flips them off. Then you have a crisis. Are we there yet? It's hard to so far Trump and Musk have been semi-smart, or because they talk out of both sides of their mouth. So you need clear statements of action to file against some of these things, file suit or injunctions, and they're a little bit muddy, and they flood the zone with bullshit. So it'll take.
Wait a sec. As I understand, there was a decision by the Supreme Court that the president is immune. Trump is immune, therefore you cannot sue him or impeach him or do just anything against Trump. Now, on the other hand, Elon Musk, he's responsible only to Trump. Nobody else. He's not responsible to Congress or Senate or just anybody except Trump. So as long as Trump is happy with what Elon Musk doing or talking about or whatever, nobody can sue Musk either. So you have two people in the United States who are irresponsible to anybody. They're not responsible to anybody in the world, for that matter. So they're responsible only to each other. That's the end of the story. Is that a constitutional crisis? If it's not, then what is?
So just to
Go ahead.
point out on the constitutional crisis thing, yes, they're going to decline. It is a constitutional crisis that he's going to, he's not going to listen to the executive branch, is no longer going to listen to the judiciary. Even worse, this is where we are really in the biggest problem, is what happened in New York with Mayor Eric Adams.
Mhm.
So with Mayor Eric Adams, he went, because he is actually indicted. Well, he's being indicted and the actual case has teeth. It's actually a legitimate case. He went to Trump, begged Trump to stop it. Pam Bondi sent said that they're going to try and drop the case because the mayor needs to do his job. But even worse, the judge of that case just actually resigned,
Mhm.
and they resigned because they were sent messages saying that they were going to investigate their staff. They were going to investigate everything about that judge. They were going to drag her down. That's where the problem is. So this is why.
Toby, it gets even deeper now because apparently
Oh,
about 30 minutes.
I'm going to sneak to the phone real quick.
Apparently about 30 minutes ago, and all along those lines, they actually just had a new incident within that and the whole Adams situation and everything. And definitely maybe Rick's got some thoughts and others because we know about Guantanamo Bay, but apparently Adams has vowed to reopen the ICE office at Rikers Island. So that just came down after he met with and had a sit down with the border czar, Tom Homan. So the border czar went there, met with Adams, and now one of the major prisons there in New York and everything like that is going to be an ICE office and everything like that. So what's your take on that, Rick? We got Guantanamo Bay on the West Coast, and now we got Rikers.
Rikers is notoriously an unpleasant place to be locked up. High suicide rates inside, and just but Adams is probably within his rights to as mayor to do that, and yeah, it stinks, but nobody can do anything about it.
Well, apparently one of the other things we can't do anything about, because there are some people that are fans of climate change and think that climate change is a real issue, and others that don't think it's a real issue and everything like that. But apparently the Securities and Exchange Commission just announced moves this week that will likely end the short-lived SEC rule that would have required companies to disclose information about their climate risk and greenhouse gas emissions. So it sounds like we're breaking a lot of these rules in favor of the corporations and the companies and stuff like that. So I know you had to get in your car to tell people what's your take on Adams opening up Rikers and also this this SEC move. But definitely that's something I thought you might be fascinated by. It after that whole notion of Adams now not being prosecuted, it's going to have Rikers Island being open in New York.
Again, it's a straight up quid pro quo. Adams.
So you're frozen. So I'm just going to say a lot of this is about liberal tears, where to some extent, MAGA voters don't care whether things benefit them, whether they're good or bad for the country and the world, as long as it makes their political opponents feel bad.
Yeah.
And so,
see, there's a very interesting instruction. All the senators and the House representatives, they all need to be reelected in 2 years and 4 years or whatever time. So to get reelected, they need help from all the Republican machines, starting with Donald Trump and Musk and all this J.D. Vance or other whatever people, officials of Republican Party. So if they will vote, even one ever vote will be against whatever Trump's agenda, they will immediately, that senator or House representative, he will be denied all access to Republican machine and will lose election for sure, even to another Republican, which will be brought in to replace this one. So because for them, to keep their salary of $270,000 a year, plus a free parking at the Dallas airport in Washington, that's well worth to forget about whatever his people want him to do or what he wants to do or his family. It doesn't matter. $270,000 in free parking at Dallas airport. That's what matters, nothing else. Therefore, they will always vote for Trump and his policies, or Musk and whoever else is there. So this is a machine that only will be possible to break in 2 years if the preliminary election or
so let's talk about 2020. 2020 was one of the worst years in American history, with a ton of death, with the stock market crashing, with the country shut down.
Yep.
And it was, as bad as it was only enough to get Biden's margin of victory 4 million more out of 160 some votes, total votes cast, than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million. Biden won it by 7 million. So even with the terrible last year of Trump's presidency, it wasn't enough to shift that many votes.
The reason being because we are in we only have two options. We don't have three. We don't have four. We don't have multiple. No, we only have two options. On top of that, we are in a society where we choose our teams and we stick and fight with our teams no matter what. You'll cheer for an 0-11 team as hard as you cheer for an 11-0 team. And that's where we are. We're a tribalistic society, and we have chosen our tribe. Regardless how garbage they are, you said something early, just a few moments ago, right before Sasha and right before you came back. You said that, and Sasha actually agreed, and Sasha said the same thing. These individuals that we're talking about, that the senators and everybody vote for Trump, they'll vote for Trump. Why? Because money and power. So you know what? What do you think the actual fan base, because that's really what it is. It's not really an electorate anymore. It's a fan base. What do you think their fan base wants? Their fan base wants them to win. It's not about the country. It's not about, hey, this is a great thing for the country or a great thing for me even. It is actually, hey, I'm going to beat those guys. So that is where we are in our society, because we cannot break through this idea that, hey, a Republican may have a good idea, or a Democrat may have a good idea, or a Libertarian may have a good idea. It's more so, hey, I've got to vote for my team and only my team, and my team is going to win. And that's where we are. That's why, every time you say, well, the Democrats need to be, they're never going to get these individuals. Never. It'll never happen. Why? Because that's not their team. Regardless.
All right, let me talk numbers. The last president to win 60% of the popular vote was Nixon in 72. The last one to get 58% was Reagan in 84. Since then, only one president has even gotten 53% of the popular vote. That was Bush in 88. We're an evenly divided country. So even if Trump sucks ass and the next 4 years are frickin' terrible for most Americans, Republicans will still have a shot in the 2028 election.
It's because of that tribal politics and where we are. And again, it sucks. And hopefully at some point we can have more people like an Adam Kinzinger that comes out and says he can't do it because of, or even I'll give Liz Cheney respect. I do not agree with her on policy at all, but at least she stood up and decided, hey, this is what's best for the country and not what's best for, hey, my team. Because right now it's not country over party, it's party over country. And that's where we are. And until we get out of that, we're still always going to have these problems. We're still always going to have a Trump or J.D. Vance or all these other buttholes who decide that, hey, anti-vax, that's the way to go. No, it's not.
All right. So my dog's back from the vet. I got to sign off and see what the diagnosis is.
Okay, go check on your dog
All right,
and
good luck.
everything like that.
All right, bye. See you tomorrow.
See ya.
Good luck with your dog and everything like that. Just really quickly, because one of the things I was curious about, and all along those lines, and maybe Sasha's got some thoughts on this, because he mentioned it earlier and everything, but there was some talk, just like him taking over the Kennedy Center, that it might not be the Dulles Airport in a while. I think I'd heard some people that were floating this idea of naming the airport after Trump and everything like that. So you fly to D.C., will you be flying into the Trump airport? And all along those lines, I know there's been talk about putting his face up on Mount Rushmore from some of the folks that are MAGA supporters as well. But what is our notion of possibly flying into the Trump airport should he get that wish? I did hear that there were some people that were speculating to put that out there.
I think pretty soon we will fly not in Washington, but in a Trump town. When it's Washington, it was hundreds of years ago, and Trump is today. So let's name Washington a Trump town. By the way, very interesting is what's happened today, and news from Europe. Denmark is preparing, as Trump was talking about, to buy Greenland. So Denmark is now raising money from all its citizens to create a fund which will make an offer to buy California. Since Trump doesn't like California and he always have problems with California, you know what, Donald, we will help you out. We will buy California from you. So now the news hit the wires actually today. I heard about it just a couple of hours ago.
So Denmark's ready to buy it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the only reason he wants to do all this land expansion and do all these other things is because of him being that megalomaniac, or the just believing what he's taking the Kim Jong-un playbook. He is the greatest to ever play golf. No, this dude is not great at golf. Oh, he is the greatest to do. Every time he talks, that's the way he talks. He speaks about anything that he does. The man could walk up the stairs, and it's the greatest walk up the stairs ever. So anything that he is saying, it's about a self-aggrandizement to try and get people to believe he's bigger than life, which he's not. And this should scare people. And it's the fact that we have individuals in the government that are wanting to have him on Mount Rushmore. Why? He hasn't done jack to be afforded that. Oh, we need to name the Washington airport after him and give it. Why? He hasn't done anything to deserve that. So it's sad that, again, we are at this position, and until people on the right begin to stand up and say that what he's doing is ridiculous and snap out of that, or willing to take one for the team in a sense, or basically just be honest about the situation And until the actual media, this is another problem, and this is why it's agitating. There's not two sides to every story. When Elon Musk does a Nazi salute, it's not two sides. Well, the dude did a Nazi salute twice. He didn't just, oops, the dude, we've talked about his history. That's what he did. It wasn't even a joke. Same thing when, Donald Trump at his rally, his last big rally, had the racist comedian, all the other racist statements that were said. There's not two sides to it. He did it. But we don't need somebody to come on and try and justify what he did. The media has to stop that. If a Republican says something bad or does something bad, just be honest about it. Don't give it the two sides justification, because that is where, like earlier today, when Nick tried to bring up the fact that the Teslas being bought by the U.S. government, that's what they're trying to do. They openly admitted that. Oh, well, there's a revised thing, and so we need to really talk about the revisement, what they really meant. No, they put out what they were doing, and we can call them out for it. He doesn't have any type of ethics concerns because they fired the ethics czar. So we need to actually hold them accountable, hold their feet to the fire as people in the press, people in the media. Be educated and be honest about it instead of, hey, Trump really didn't need to say. No, he said what he said. You tell me all the time, hey, you can take him at his word. Well, if I can take him at his word, why are you trying to analyze his word to a point to water down everything he said? No, he said what he said.
He said what he said.
I'll give you an even better example. Right now, there's a Prime Minister of India, Modi, is coming to Washington.
Mhm.
When he will be in the Oval Office beside Trump, who do you think will be there? Elon Musk.
Yep.
And Elon Musk will peddle his cars to India. And that's something what never happened in history, not just United States, but any country, when there is a meeting between heads of states, and on one side there is also a top businessman, the richest man in the world, supposedly, and he is peddling his cars to India. That's incredible. It's never been.
Well, Sasha, I don't even know if you heard because Trump was asked that today, because he did meet. Elon met with him earlier. Not Trump, but head of India, Modi. But yeah, Trump was asked about why did Elon meet with Modi before you. Trump said, "Well, I don't know. You know how tough it is to do business in India." So the president of the United States is giving, the so-called president is giving his biggest donor free access to the head of state of another country to peddle cars and giving him the okay to do so.
So Musk smooth things with Modi for Trump. He could promise a huge discount on all these Tesla cars. He could provide some maybe Starlink to India for probably discount prices or so on. And then comes Trump, and Modi is, of course, he's impressed with Musk, and he knows that it's real goodies on the table. So now you see, you are right by calling Trump so-called president. He has been elected, but he is not capable because of his age, his mental incapacity, his intellectual defects. When Musk's talking about many programs, what he's doing and what he's doing with the government right now, and that he's going to switch all government to his own data centers, and so Elon Musk will actually run the US government. And then if it's successful, he will run all other companies. They will not be able to function unless they are operating on Musk's data centers, but he will change code and he will be the only one in charge of all that. But Trump, he has no capacity to explain, not to explain, even to understand all that. He's not capable. That's why Musk is doing all the talking, and Trump, like a large, big kid, sitting there and look at right and then looks at left, and he has nothing to say. It's well beyond his.
Yeah, but it's beyond him and everything. I did see an interesting conversation and everything like that about DEI, and it was actually a picture of the three of the kids of Donald, and they were actually President Trump, and they were actually saying that that is the latest version of DEI because of some of their jobs. So it's actually a picture of Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. So that would be the three kids that are actually having, if nothing else, nepotism and all along those lines. But they were saying that that's a modern day version of DEI. I know that sometimes when Steve's here, we talk about the border, and they are saying that we're heading toward a record low amount of people crossing the border. And a lot of people are concerned about being deported if they come across the border. But I'm sure that President Trump will tout this as a victory. So what is your take on this? And given it was reported from a conservative publication, that being the New York Post and everything, but what is your take on this notion of there being a record low amount of people, apparently a record that hasn't been set in like 60 years of people crossing the border, particularly from Mexico? So what's your take on that, Sasha? About another.
No, I think, and I already said that on program, that all this immigration issue, it was something that should have, and it did help Trump to win the election. There's no issues, there's no real complaints of US citizens. There are so many immigrants and they don't want them or so. Yeah, some people probably do. But majority of people, especially those who don't live in the border states, they don't care on this issue one way or another. So for Trump, it's really political issue more than anything else. And he is working on it until such time that he will understand that people really don't care about it. Okay, he won election. That's the end of story. Okay, now, okay, you can move some people out of country, or some other people probably will move in, and people are losing interest to this. They're more interested how much they pay at the gas station, how much cost a dozen of eggs. They're primarily more interested in economic issues rather than the immigration issue.
What's your take on that, Jacoby?
Border crossings were already at a record low, well, going down, and hit a record low, I think, right before Biden left. It was already going down. What Trump is going to do is the same thing he did with Canada. Oh, I got something from Canada. Yeah, you got a deal that was already done years ago. Oh, I got something from Mexico. Oh, you know that deal was done a long time ago, but yeah, you did a good thing there, Trumpy. So no, it's just a talking point. It has no legs. It has no real truth to it that people are scared. No, people are still going to cross the border. It was already, going down under Biden. It had actually gone way down under Biden. But nope, I don't put anything into it that it's just another way that he's going to manipulate his base into believing anything he does is the greatest thing in the world.
I think what's important thing, and it's very easily could be measured, is amount of U.S. debt. If it's $36 trillion, and the next few months it will be 36.5, or maybe even $37 trillion. Now that does the talking. So where is your great Elon Musk, and where are all your Hackseth and Tulsi Gabbard and all your champions? Your debt is growing. You are a beggar. You're international beggar who is going around the world and say, I want a piece of Gaza. I want this, and we will move this, and we will move that. Where is the money, you idiot?
And check this out, Sasha. This is the fun part. Now, if you look at Joe Biden over his past 4 years, I think they said he spent, $7 trillion or something like that? That was supposedly his over the past 4 years. Well, the Republican Party, Mike Johnson just put out his bill that they want to get across the finish line. It raises the debt by $4 trillion in first bill, economic bill. Donald Trump is raising the national debt that you're talking about by $4 trillion. Although they said they cut all this money and cut all these things, where did you cut if you've got to raise it $4 trillion? Not like, a few trillion, no, $4 trillion. So yeah, as I try and tell people, they're not really cutting. They're putting up a smoke screen as they're stealing. That's all they're doing.
They're definitely stealing everything, and we're going to get out of here and everything in a few minutes. But I did have a quick question for you, Jacoby, and all on those lines, which is this notion of, you talked about tribalism a couple of times, and what I've heard from some people that watched the Super Bowl and all along those lines is that actually Kendrick Lamar was talking about unity in his speech, and some people were not realizing that because he had the Bloods and the Crips together and some other people that were together as well, even though it was a predominantly African American cast and everything along those lines. But I just wondering your thoughts on that, because even on this network, one of our shows talked about that there was a message of unity that some people may have missed in that Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of messages that people missed. Yes, it was a message of unity. If you watch the choreography of the flag was very important. If you think about it, he was a black man standing in the middle of America. America is represented by that flag. A black man in the middle of America. On top of that, the flag first went away. It was split. Then he brought the flag together as the individuals reached out. If you notice, one of the biggest things that came from a lot of the Trump supporters, especially, and the complaints, and Nick has done it on his Facebook, which makes me laugh. It was, there were no white people in it. Well, now you want DEI when before you wanted to get rid of DEI. You didn't care that there was diversity. Now you want it in this whole dance and halftime show. But yes, in that flag representation, he brought people together. All the people that were in the flag or all the dancers were black, representative of the fact that America was built on the backs of black individuals. So there was a lot of history there. Uncle Sam was actually, it was a great representation, because one of the things that Samuel Jackson's character said during that halftime is he was trying to tell Kendrick Lamar, no, you're being too loud, you're being too ghetto, you're not being. So he's basically, as Uncle Sam, or actually as those Trump individuals kept pushing out, or actually a lot of white people kept pushing out, oh well, I didn't understand them, it sounded the same, it was too loud, it was ghetto, all this stuff that is the same stereotype dog whistle comments that have been said year after year after year about black individuals. The whole shut up and dance, or the shut up and play, that's what came in that whole speech. Like I said, there's a huge breakdown of the whole Kendrick Lamar thing, because the man is brilliant, and what he actually put on was very impressive as a protest against an individual, actually a protest against not only what's going on in America, but the actual individual in the White House, which was so upset that they had hate, stop racism on painted. The NFL had to paint that over. If you're offended by people saying stop racism, then you might be a racist.
Yep, I hear you and everything. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, because we got your show tomorrow. If you'll tell folks what you've got on tap tomorrow, and whether we'll see Ivan, I hope so, because I know he's in Kyiv and everything. But what the conversation will be tomorrow morning on Ukraine, Russia, and China show, which will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
I must say it will be a very difficult show for me, Ukrainian show, because I know that Dr. Lockwood, he is a Republican, and he supports very openly Donald Trump. And I'm sort of going along with him because it's just 2-3 weeks since Trump became president, so I wanted to see what's this done and so on. So I sort of kind of muted this theme about Donald Trump, but it's getting more and more difficult for me to swallow all that. Although I'm not saying that Dr. Lockwood is overly aggressive about his support of Trump or so on. No, he's doing that in a very intelligent and very dignified way. But it's getting more and more difficult for me to stay quiet about it. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes
Hey,
tomorrow.
Sasha, if you want me to come on and be the bad guy, because you know I'm more than willing to do that for you.
Okay, if you're free at 11. Okay, that's fine.
And on that note, we get ready to get on out of here and everything like that, because it has been a fun conversation. We've got World Edition tomorrow. Coco McMillan is actually coming up right now and everything. And then we've got the show Relationship Soup, which is a relationship show at 7 o'clock, and other programming here on Pod TV. As always, it's great to see Sasha there from Canada, and I look forward to seeing him again tomorrow. And we'll also be recording the chess show, which will air on Saturday. But look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And you have a good evening. I'm actually going to try to find me some food because my stomach is telling me that I'm a little bit hungry. So I'll catch you later, and all
Okay.
of those.
Bye bye to all our listeners. The best. Bye bye.